Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we've got a review of one of the best metal rock albums of the 1990s. Are you ready to rock for Faith No More's Angel Dust? I'll start this review by stating I'm a big fan of progressive rock in all its very sort of idiosyncratic forms. And although this band are never thought of as a progressive rock band, I think they meet the criteria perfectly. So, this review is for the album Angel Dust by Faith No More. Now, Faith No More are quite unique in rock and metal. This is mainly because it's very, very difficult to really categorise them. I mean, what sort of music are they? They're a sort of dance, funk, pop, metal, jazz, art, rock band. In fact, you can pretty much throw the kitchen sink in when it comes to giving them a style of music that they represent. They can't really be categorised, and in my opinion, that's what makes them a progressive rock band. Angel Dust is a great example. At one moment they've got real sort of straight ahead rock sort of metal anthems wrapped up in a sort of art pop rock style, especially on songs like Land of Sunshine and Midlife Crisis. And then they sort of change tact. Mike Patton's, quite amazingly a unique voice. He sort of channels his sort of lounge jazz crooning on songs like RV. And then when you just sort of think that you've got them sussed out a little bit, they go almost like tribal sounding with the track Smaller and Smaller. Again, it's every single song on this track is different, and it can't really be categorized in terms of the style that it's trying to go for. Smaller than Smaller, is it sort of funk, soul, metal combination? It's again, it's difficult to categorize, but that's what makes them so good. Now, this was the album after The Real Thing, which was like, much more sort of straightforward in terms of its sort of funk rock sound. This album is not, I wouldn't call it easy listening. It's not really straightforward as that previous album was, but it kind of does its own thing, and it sort of doesn't spend too long in one sort of style, which means that for you, the listener, you never really get bored of it. Every listen gives it, you get something different from it. And that's really why I think they're very progressive, in terms of their style. You can't put them into a box. I can't really think of any other band that sound like Faith No More. They are absolutely unique. I mean, let's take the song sort of Malpractice. I mean, it starts off with lots of ever-changing sort of, Jim Martin sort of riffing. And then there's massive big keyboards in there as well. And then Mike Patton, he sounds as mad as a box of frogs. He screams and shouts across most of the song like some sort of death metal wannabe. After that, it almost makes your ears bleed. It's that intense, very difficult to sort of really listen to, but the fact that it's different is so good. Then we get Kindergarten. That's a big sort of slab of funk rock. It's got a great sing-along chorus, and it's driven by a really great bass groove. You could sort of categorize them more like a Red Hot Chili Peppers type of sound. But it's a long way, it's far from conventional though, but with its little sort of rap rock interludes. Be Aggressive switches it up again. This sounds like Faith No More being a real sort of soul band, but with a sort of metal backing track. It's not conventional, but it kind of just works because there's so much going on in the song. It has a sort of haunting church organ backdrop, and then sort of like a gang-like cheerleader sort of backing vocals. It's probably one of my favourite tracks on the album. Then it switches back to a sort of very sort of a bit more sort of easy listening with a small victory. It's a little bit more mainstream art rock, but it's still very unique, mainly due to the fact that Mike Patton has just got a really unique voice. Crack Hitler's next. Now, we're changing it up again. It's a kind of sort of 70s funky guitar, sounding like with a lot of like slapping bass as well, and a nice sort of keyboard sound. But it sort of sounds like something like from a 70s cop, movie soundtrack. And then it sort of heads off into a sort of unconventional sort of middle section before it sort of returns back to that sort of 70s funk soul vibe. I mean, this is what, how could you categorize them as metal when this sort of song sounds very soulful, very sort of, lots of things with jazz in it. You can't really say it's a rock or heavy metal band when you've got those sort of sounds in it. Jizzlo Bruh, we're going unconventional again. It's almost like a wall of noise that doesn't sort of fit within any sort of typical song structure. Again, Mike Patton sort of singing with that sort of very death metal type of cookie type of monster vocals with a very detuned guitar sound, and it's probably out of all the songs on the album the most difficult song to listen to. Then we get into the sort of final song. The final song is actually a cover of the song Midnight Cowboy, which is a John Barry instrumental from the film of the same name. It's about as, out of place as all the other songs on the album, but it really sort of, you can see that they were trying to sort of create almost like a soundtrack of an album with lots of different sounds and lots of different themes going on within the album. Now, if you've got the CD version, there is a sort of bonus track, but most people would have it on there at the end of their song. And that's another cover. This time, it's a song, Easy, by the Commodores. It's not trying to do a rock metal version of it. It's very sort of similar to the original version, with Mike Patton showing, again, what a soulful voice he is by channeling his best Lionel Richie impression. A really great sort of end to the song, but it does sort of leave you wanting more, and you can get more by just re-listening to the album again. It's a really, really good album just because it's so experimental and so uncategorizable. I think it's probably their best, in my opinion, it's their best album, and one of the best 90s albums that there is, certainly in that sort of rock metal genre. Every song's different. There's so many different mixtures of styles. It could have been a real complete mess, but it just somehow works. And to me, it's an album that, whatever sort of music you're into, you'll probably find something in here that you like. So if you're a big metalhead, if you like something a bit more progressive, if you're more into that sort of funk metal, funk rock, there's everything in this album and more. So that's my review for Faith No More's album Angel Dust. Hope you enjoyed it. What do you think of the album? Let me know in the comments. Really would like your opinion. Is it the best Faith No More album? Are there a lot of people that like the more sort of conventional album that preceded it, The Real Thing? It had some big songs on that as well. But let me know what you think. What do you think of Faith No More? Are they one of the greatest rock and metal bands there are? I think they are, but what do you think? And until the next one, you know what you got to do. Keep on rocking.